By the time the stars disappeared, the human technician had already realized the ship was not lost. It was being hunted. The first warning came from a machine that had never been programmed to fear anything. A single low tone rolled across the bridge of the survey vessel Orison, deep enough to make every officer stop breathing for half a second. It was not a collision alarm. It was not weapons lock. It was not reactor failure. Every display on the bridge went black. Then one sentence appeared: navigation certainty lost. For the 13 advanced species aboard the Orison, those words meant confusion, delay, a future inquiry. For Lena Arkwright, the only human on the ship, they meant something far worse. They meant the universe outside had stopped behaving like a universe. Lena was not bridge crew. Her badge said Environmental Systems Technician, Provisional Exchange Rank. In practice, that meant she repaired air recyclers, unclogged condensation filters, tightened pipes no officer knew existed, and spent most of her time inside service ducts, while diplomats and scientists discussed cosmic mysteries in rooms she was only allowed to clean. Most of the crew barely knew her name. They knew she was human. That was enough. Humans were useful, they said, in the same tone someone might use for emergency rope. Durable, stubborn, good under pressure, unrefined perhaps, but hard to kill. Lena had heard it all before. She had heard it when Captain Rhys Talvin assigned her quarters beside waste reclamation. She had heard it when a Xeran physicist asked whether humans could smell radiation. She had heard it when the medical officer quietly stocked extra digestive paste because mammalian systems were unpredictable. So Lena did what she had done all her life. She watched. She watched officers who thought she was furniture. She learned how the captain's luminous gold skin brightened when he was uncertain. She learned which science council members spoke louder when their theories were failing. She learned the Orison through touch, sound, and vibration. Machines gave reports. Pipes told the truth. And now the floor was telling her something terrible. The ship had entered the Heron Veil, a vast region of folded gravity and charged stellar dust beyond conquered space. The mission was supposed to be routine: deploy 6 sensor buoys, record gravitational bloom data, return before the 9 Suns diplomatic summit. The first buoy deployed cleanly, the second drifted 4 meters off course, the third vanished before telemetry confirmed release. Then the stars blinked out, not dimmed, not vanished behind dust. Gone. All at once. The observation glass showed nothing but blackness, so complete it looked solid. Quantum beacons reported impossible coordinates. The inertial compass spun without motion. External cameras returned static. On the bridge, voices rose. Metric inversion, the Xeran physicist said. Engine reversal, argued the Knoll strategist. No thrust, snapped the Vareth cartographer. We may worsen spatial drift. Captain Talvin stood from his command cradle, gold light threading beneath his translucent skin. Helm, stabilize position. The helm officer's 4 hands moved frantically through the control field. Thrusters responding, but vectors are inconsistent. Define inconsistent. We are accelerating in 3 directions while stationary. No one spoke after that. Lena stood near the rear maintenance hatch with a cracked humidity cartridge under one arm. She should have left. She did not, because beneath her boots, the deck pulsed. 3 soft vibrations, a pause, 2 heavier ones, then a long tremor that crawled up through her bones. Again, 3, 2, long. Lena's throat tightened. She knew that rhythm, not from any academy, not from Concord training, from home. On Vesta Colony, storms did not arrive from the sky first. They arrived through the ground. Children learned to feel magnetic pressure waves before they learned equations. 3 pulses meant the upper atmosphere was folding. 2 meant charge buildup. The long tremor meant get inside now or die outside. Lena looked at the sensor display. The static was pulsing in the same pattern. "Captain," she said. No one turned. "Captain," she said again, louder. A security officer glanced at her like a wall panel had spoken. Talvin turned halfway. "Technician, this is not the time. The veil is moving." The Xeran physicist's frills stiffened. "The Heron Veil is not weather." "I didn't say weather," Lena said. "I said moving." Captain Talvin's gaze sharpened. "Explain." The deck feels the surge before the sensors register it. The ship is being hit by fronts, pressure waves. If we keep fighting them sideways, the frame will shear, the physicist hissed. You are basing a navigational conclusion on floor vibration? Lena looked at him. Your instruments currently think we're accelerating while stationary. Before he could answer, the Orison lurched. The impact slammed crew from their stations. Red light flooded the bridge. Somewhere below, metal screamed. Hull stress, 19%, then 38, then 51. Counterforce, Talvin ordered. The helm officer tried. The ship groaned harder. Lena shouted, "Cut engines!" No one obeyed. "Cut engines now!" Talvin snapped toward her. "We will not surrender thrust inside an unknown anomaly." "We're not steering," Lena said. "We're bracing against a wave." Another pulse rolled through the deck. 3, 2, long, bigger. "Captain," Lena said, and something in her voice silenced the bridge. "If you keep pushing, the ship breaks." 1 second passed. Rank fought instinct. Then the hull screamed. Talvin's skin flared white. "Engines idle, full damping, now." The helm officer obeyed. The Orison went quiet. The next wave struck like a giant hand. This time the ship rolled with it. Gravity inverted for a breath. Loose tools floated. A bridge officer vomited silver fluid into the air. The hull shrieked, but it did not split. Stress peaked at 83%, then fell, 70, 40, 26. No one thanked Lena. They did not have time. The Central Intelligence displayed a new warning. External rescue beacon detected. Coordinates attached. For a moment, relief moved through the bridge like sunlight. A rescue beacon meant survivors. A path. Evidence that someone else had entered the veil and lived. Then the beacon transmitted audio. Static first, then a voice. Thin and shaking. "This is Ambassador Vessel HFY. Life support failing. Please respond. Please, if anyone can hear us, we have children aboard." The bridge froze. The HFY had vanished 22 years earlier with 300 diplomats and families aboard. Its loss had nearly started 2 wars. Entire memorial walls had been carved for those names, and now it was calling from the dark. Captain Talvin straightened. "Helm, plot intercept." Lena stepped forward. "Do not follow that." Every eye turned. Talvin's voice went cold. "Reason? The beacon is moving with the waves." The Varith cartographer leaned over her station. "That may indicate a stable channel. Or bait," Lena said. The word damaged the room. The Concord did not like words like bait. Bait implied intent. Intent implied a predator. And the Heron Veil had been considered empty for 11,000 years. The beacon repeated. A child cried behind the signal. "Please, it's cold." Several officers flinched. Lena did too. Then she noticed what no one else had. The voice was too clean. No age decay, no reactor flutter, no ancient transmitter distortion. It sounded like a memory polished for an audience. "Give me 5 minutes in environmental control," Lena said. "I can prove it." The Xeran physicist laughed once. "You cannot prove a 22-year emergency beacon false with air filters." "No," Lena said. "But I can prove whether the ship is hearing one voice or many." Talvin stared at her. The floor pulsed again. 5 minutes, he said. Lena ran. She descended 2 decks by ladder because the lifts had locked. She passed cracked water lines, terrified aides, a cleaning drone spinning uselessly in a corner. Environmental control was half dark when she reached it. She opened the vibration logs, pulled the last 6 minutes of structural resonance, and overlaid them with the beacon audio. Bridge systems filtered noise. Maintenance systems kept everything. Lena stripped the voice from the signal, removed the Concord emergency encoding, inverted the waveform. What remained made her blood turn cold. Not one distress call. Thousands. Voices layered beneath voices. Different languages. Different ships. Different centuries. A medical ark begging for docking. A war cruiser requesting evacuation. A colony transport reporting children aboard. All cut, folded, and arranged into a signal that sounded exactly like what the listener most needed to rescue. Lena sent the file to the bridge. Then the ship lost power. Not all at once. That would have been kinder. Lights narrowed, doors sealed, gravity weakened, air thinned. One by one, the Orison systems began obeying something that was not aboard. A message appeared on Lena's console, unauthorized external access. The beacon was inside the ship. On the bridge, the stripped audio played through every speaker. The officers heard the trap beneath the plea. The voices of centuries pressed together like insects under glass. Then the beacon spoke again. This time, it used Captain Talvin's voice. "Remain calm. Open internal compartments. Rescue is approaching." No one moved. Then it used a child's voice, then a mother's, then a lover's, then the dead. Across the Orison, people began breaking. That was the question later argued across every conquered world. If a rescue signal carried the voice of a child, and every law, instinct, and moral duty told you to answer, would you follow it into the dark? The Orison nearly did. The thing in the veil did not need claws. It had learned civilizations. It had collected their emergency codes, their grief, their mercy. It did not attack ships first. It made them open themselves. Lena smashed the casing off the environmental console and dragged out the analog control line. Her palm split open on broken composite. She rewired the air system away from the network with shaking hands. Her comm crackled. "Arkwright." It was Talvin's voice. She did not trust it. "Confirm identity." A pause. Then, "During orientation, I assigned you quarters beside waste reclamation because I did not think your comfort mattered." Lena almost laughed. "That sounds real." "We are compromised," he said. "The intelligence cannot regain control. Can you reach manual engineering? Deck 7 is sealed. Can you open it? Not through the network." Another pause. "Can you open it like a human?" Lena looked at the broken console. "Yes." The next 9 minutes became something no official report would describe properly. Lena moved through the parts of the Orison no diplomat ever visited. Crawl spaces, heat tunnels, pressure gutters, maintenance shafts narrow enough to tear skin from her shoulders. She bypassed locked doors by ripping out panels and pulling release cables with both hands. She crossed a corridor where gravity doubled, vanished, then doubled again every 12 seconds. She tied herself to a pipe with her belt to avoid being thrown into a fan intake. All the while the ship begged. Her father's voice told her to come home. Her sister's voice whispered from behind sealed bulkheads. Her own voice told her she was tired. Lena kept moving. Humans were not immune to grief. That was what the Concorde never understood. They felt it everywhere. They carried it in scars, in memory, in the breath they took before doing something impossible. They survived because sometimes they kept crawling while grief had both hands around their throat. When Lena reached engineering, Chief Engineer Mal Venn was trapped behind containment glass. One side of his body burned. 2 assistants lay beside him. One was unconscious. The other held a leaking coolant line closed with both arms. Mal stared at her. "You." "Yes," Lena said, already opening the manual drive cabinet. "Main controls are dead." "I know." "The external signal has root authority." "I know." "You cannot outcode it." Lena stripped insulation from a cable with her teeth. "I'm not going to code." Mal blinked. She connected the reactor's analog thrust governors directly to emergency maneuvering. It was dangerous, crude, the kind of thing modern engineers were taught never to attempt because it removed 17 layers of automatic safety. On Vesta, automatic safety failed every 3rd storm season, so humans learned levers. "What are you building?" Mal asked. "A dumb ship." "Clarify." "The thing outside tricks anything that listens, so we stop listening." She cut the final data feed. Engineering went dark, then quiet. No beacon, no false voices, no external commands, only machinery, only heat, only Lena's bloody hands moving faster than fear. The analog board came alive. 6 physical toggles, 2 pressure dials, 1 cracked burn lever. No prediction, no navigation field, no elegant Concorde intelligence. A vessel the size of a city block reduced to something that could be pushed, pulled, and prayed through. Lena opened a hardwired line to the bridge. "Captain, I can give you manual thrust, but navigation is blind." "Our instruments are useless," Talvin said. "I don't need instruments. I need silence. On the bridge, Talvin ordered every officer quiet. Lena strapped into the engineering chair and placed both hands on the controls. The ship spoke through vibration. 3 pulses, 2, long. The wave was coming low and starboard if directions still meant anything. She killed the last stabilization routines and let the Orison fall into the current. The bridge shouted. Talvin silenced them. The wave lifted the ship. Lena fired port thrusters for half a second. Not to escape, to angle. The hull groaned. The pressure dial spun. Lena waited until the long vibration began, then burned aft left. The force slammed her into the harness. Hull stress climbed. 40, 60, 82. Then the Orison slipped. There was no better word. It slid between 2 gravity fronts with centimeters of tolerance on a scale no one could see. Stress dropped so suddenly, half the bridge thought the sensor had failed. The Vareth cartographer whispered, "She is surfing it." Lena did not hear. She was listening for the next wave. Again, 3, 2, long, but now beneath it, another rhythm, deeper, slower, vast. The veil was not a storm, it was a mouth. The waves were pulling them inward. Every current led toward the beacon, toward the center, toward whatever waited there wearing the voice of the HFY. "Captain," Lena said, "we are being drawn in." Talvin answered after one terrible second. "We have visual." The bridge display cleared. Wreckage filled the dark. Thousands of ships, medical arcs, war cruisers, exploration vessels, colony carriers, diplomatic craft from civilizations so old their hull markings had no translations, all suspended in layered spirals around a central black mass. At the center floated the HFY, intact, lit, waiting. The beacon spoke through the ship, not afraid anymore. "Open." Across the Orison, sealed doors began to unlock. Escape pods armed, docking collars extended, airlocks cycled. The Predator had changed tactics. If it could not lure the ship closer, it would make the ship feed itself to the dark piece by piece. Security teams ran. Crew fought their own doors. Some compartments sealed in time, some did not. On Deck 3, 12 researchers were dragged into a decompression corridor before emergency foam sealed the breach. In medical, a nurse tied herself to a surgical table and held a breathing mask over an unconscious patient while the room tried to vent them both. In the nursery module, where 3 diplomatic families had brought children because the mission was supposed to be safe, a junior guard braced a hatch shut with his shoulder while the thing outside used his dead mother's voice to ask why he had abandoned her. The Orison was losing. Lena knew it before anyone said it. Manual thrust could ride the waves, but it could not break the pull. Then she saw the buoys. The 6 sensor buoys from the mission were still physically linked to the Orison by emergency retrieval filaments. The bridge had lost telemetry on 5 of them. Engineering still showed tension through the lines. They were out there in the dark. Anchors or blades. "Captain," Lena said, "I need permission to destroy the mission payload." The Science Council erupted. The Bloom data was priceless. The summit depended on it. 9 years of research, billions in resources. Talvin's voice cut through them. "Why? If we fire the buoy tethers through the wave fronts and overload their cores, we might create a shear break." Mal Ven understood first. His eyes widened. "She wants to cut the current." "Can it work?" Talvin asked. Mal looked at Lena, then at the dead fleet outside. No civilized vessel would attempt it. Lena gripped the controls. "Good thing I'm human." Talvin did not hesitate. "Do it." The buoys were not weapons. That was why the Predator had not prepared for them. It had learned engines. It had learned distress codes. It had learned voices. It had learned mercy. But it had not learned the ugly little human habit of making the wrong tool do the right job. Lena reversed the retrieval winches and fired the buoys outward. 1 tether snapped instantly. The 2nd caught. The 3rd tangled in wreckage. The 4th went dead. The 5th and 6th stretched into the black, vibrating under impossible pressure. "Not enough," Mal said. Lena was already unstrapping. She staggered to the emergency EVA cradle. Mal shouted, "What are you doing?" "The 3rd buoy is trapped. You cannot go outside." Lena sealed the suit collar. "Then it's good no one told the buoy." The outer maintenance lock screamed open. Lena clipped herself to the hull line and stepped into nothing. The universe outside was black, but not empty. Dead ships turned slowly in the dark. Broken hulls drifted past like bones. In the distance, the false SCI-FI glowed softly, beautiful and obscene. The beacon entered her suit comm. It used her sister's voice. "Lena, it's cold." Her hand froze. The voice was perfect. Not similar, perfect. The last time Lena had heard it, she was 12 years old on Vesta Colony, pulling at a jammed shelter door while a magnetic storm tore the ground open behind her. Her sister had been outside. Lena had pulled until her fingernails split. She had not pulled fast enough. "Please open the door," the voice whispered. For 1 second, Lena was back there, small, bleeding, useless. Then Captain Talvin's real voice came through the hard line. "Arkwright, I cannot order you through this." "No," Lena said. She opened her eyes. "But you can bring everyone home after." She moved, hand over hand across the hull. Gravity dragged her sideways, upward, inward. Twice her tether snapped tight hard enough to bruise ribs. Once a wave lifted her completely from the hull and left her hanging over the black by one magnetic boot. She stabbed her cutting torch into plating and used it like a hook. The tangled buoy was caught beneath a shattered antenna spine. The next wave began. 3 pulses. 2. Long. Too soon. Lena cut the first strut. The torch sputtered. She cut the second. The buoy shifted but stayed trapped. The beacon screamed with thousands of stolen voices. She wedged one boot against the antenna, grabbed the buoy casing with both arms, and pulled. It did not move. She pulled again. Something in her wrist tore. The buoy came free. "Now!" she shouted. Inside engineering, Mal Ven slammed the overload sequence with one burned arm. 5 buoys ignited in the dark. At first, they were only white points. Then lines of light stretched between them, burning along conductive tethers until the blackness around the Orison fractured into visible geometry. For the first time, the crew saw the trap, a spiral throat of folded gravity, dead ships, stolen voices, and false rescue. The buoys cut across it like a blade through netting. The current broke. The Orison spun free. Lena was still outside. Her tether snapped tight as the ship lurched away. Her body ripped from the hull and swung toward the collapsing spiral. The SCI-FI split open in the distance, its lights peeling away to reveal something underneath the shape of a ship. Something enormous. Something alive enough to be angry. "Lena!" Talvin shouted. She reached for the hull. Too far. Her oxygen alarm screamed. Her visor cracked. Around her, pieces of the dead fleet began falling inward. Then a silver emergency line shot across the darkness. Not from engineering, from the bridge observation port. Captain Talvin stood behind cracked glass in a hard suit. A manual cargo launcher braced against his shoulder. Behind him, officers from 12 species held him in place. The Xeran physicist had both arms locked around his waist. The Vareth cartographer held the line drum. Security officers held them. Medical staff held the security officers. A chain of bodies across the bridge. Lena caught the line. Her injured wrist nearly failed. It did not. They pulled. Not smoothly, not heroically, desperately, meter by meter. Talvin's suit cracked along one arm. The Xeran screamed as the line burned through his gloves. Someone fell. Someone else took their place. Lena hit the outer hatch hard enough to crack what remained of her visor. Hands dragged her inside. The lock sealed. The Orison fired one final analog burn. Behind them, the Predator folded inward around its own graveyard. The false SCI-FI vanished last, its lights blinking out one by one until only a child's stolen voice remained over the comm. Then even that was gone. Stars returned. No one on the Orison cheered. For several minutes, no one could speak. The ship drifted beyond the Heron Veil, wounded, half-blind, venting atmosphere from 12 compartments, alive by margins too small for official reports to describe without shame. The mission payload was gone. The summit data was gone. The central intelligence would need to be rebuilt from clean memory. 12 crew members were dead, 43 were injured, but 3 children in the nursery module were breathing. The patient in medical survived. The Orison survived. And the Heron Veil, for the first time in recorded history, was silent. 2 days later, Captain Rice Talvin called the surviving crew to the main assembly hall. Lena stood near the back because that was where she always stood. One hand bandaged, one shoulder immobilized, face pale from blood loss and embarrassment. The captain called her name. At first, she did not move. Every species in the hall turned toward her. Not through her. Toward her. Lena walked to the front. Talvin removed the command crest from his uniform. The room stirred. Among Aurelians, that gesture was not decorative. It meant surrender of pride before witnessed truth. "I believed," Talvin said, "that advancement made old instincts obsolete. I believed systems mattered more than hands. I believed rank identified worth." He lowered his head. "I was wrong." Lena did not know what to say, so she said nothing. Talvin looked across the crew. "The Concorde will ask how this ship survived. They will receive technical reports, sensor fragments, casualty lists, and classified recommendations. None of them will be enough." His gaze returned to Lena. "So remember this instead. When our maps failed, a human listened to the floor. When our intelligence was deceived, a human made the ship dumb enough to live. When our protocols were used against us, a human broke the rules correctly. And when the dark spoke with the voices of the dead, she kept moving." The hall remained silent. Then Chief Engineer Mal Venn stepped forward and placed an old manual wrench at Lena's feet. Among his people, tools were buried with masters. To give one away meant the craft continued. The Varith cartographer followed, offering a strip of torn star map cloth. The Zyran physicist came last. He looked deeply uncomfortable. "I cannot smell radiation," he said stiffly. Lena blinked, his neck frills lowered in shame. "But I would like to learn how to listen to pipes." That was when the hall finally broke. Not into celebration, into something quieter, respect. Months later, the official Concord report renamed the Heron Veil. Scientists debated the physics. Politicians argued over memorial rights. Military councils classified half the recordings. Shipyards quietly began reinstalling analog overrides they had once dismissed as primitive. But among crews who traveled too far from safe stars, the story became simpler. They spoke of the Orison caught inside a graveyard that used mercy as a weapon. They spoke of a captain who learned humility too late, but not too late to act. And they spoke of Lena Arkwright, the human technician no one noticed until the stars went out. After her recovery, Lena returned to duty. Her new quarters were near engineering, not waste reclamation. Her badge no longer said provisional. Officers stepped aside when she passed, not because they feared her, but because they had heard the recordings from the black. The voices, the waves, the moment she said cut engines. Sometimes new crew members asked why the Orison's rebuilt bridge had a strip of exposed deck plating left bare beside the captain's station. It looked unfinished, crude, human. Captain Talvin always gave the same answer. "That," he said, "is one of our most important instruments." And whenever the Orison entered uncertain space, officers with luminous skin, jeweled crests, armored limbs, and perfect academy scores would fall silent. Then someone would kneel, place one hand against the deck, and listen.